everybody, Jerry Taggart here. Now be sure to watch Chris and Leicester Till I Die TV by subscribing on YouTube and following them on social media for all the latest Leicester City news and information. Come on, you foxes!
Hello, fellow Fox fans. How are we doing? Let's forget the weekend, shall we, and move on. I think it's Thursday. I think it's the preview show. We've got that many games or whatever coming up. I don't know where we are or what we're doing. What I do know is we've got a matter of this at the weekend. Yes, Tottenham, who were top of the league, they're obviously second. How are we feeling about that after the weekend's performance? If you're like me, you're a little bit worried. I'm not going to deny it, a little bit worried. Hey, welcome along, new studio. Been in all day, sorting it all out, moving things around. Hope it's coming across well. It'll either go very well and everything will run absolutely smoothly, or we'll just all go tits up, which is normally the cause for Leicester Till I Die. But it is one thing that hasn't changed, one thing that hasn't moved. It's still Leicester Till I Die TV.
You are watching Leicester Till I Die TV with Chris and Chums. YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram and Pinterest. All you need for everything Leicester City FC. It's Leicester Till I Die TV. Leicester Till I Die. Now available on Spotify.
Yes, it is Leicester Till I Die TV. We are all over the place. If you want to watch us tonight, obviously the Facebook group is the main place where you can get us, Leicester Till I Die, in Facebook, and it's the group. Click on that StreamYard link, and it just brings your Facebook details up, which includes your name, and we can see who we're talking to rather than just Facebook user. It's a lot nicer, a lot friendlier. If you're on the old Twitter side, and if you're on Twitter, you can get Periscope. We are live on there as well at Leicester TID, and of course YouTube with Leicester Till I Die TV. And if you want to watch us on catch up afterwards, because you want to go and have a cup of tea and your meal and what have you, and you've had a hard day's work, you can pick us up on, of course, as I say, YouTube at Leicester Till I Die TV. And we're also on podcasts, Google, Apple, iTunes, Spotify and Anchor. Many other podcasts are available, I've been told. Welcome along. Like I say, whether this will go smoothly or not, I don't know. But let's introduce somebody who is always smooth. The Des Lynam of Leicester Till I Die TV. You can, if he was any smoother, he'd just fall off his chair. Hello, Craig.
Hello, Chris. The Des Lynam. Well, high praise indeed. High praise. I don't think I can live up to that.
I am running out of getting your introductions better every week. But Des Lynam, I can see that. You are.
Yeah. Well, you may have peaked now. I think it's only downwards from Des Lynam.
Yeah. Well, I asked earlier, how are we feeling about the weekend? I'm sure there's not many happy. I'm sure there's a lot that are worried, a lot that are nervous, a lot that are probably getting a spare pair of underpants out for Sunday. And Andy said here, Josie must be rubbing his hands. And a quick hello to Matthew. Hi, Chris. Hi, Chris. That's me. I told you it's all going to go wrong. Hi, Matthew. Where are you watching us from today? I love this because Matthew, I presume it's his job, takes him all over Europe. I spoke to him in the tunnel, spoke to him in Germany. Let us know where you're joining us from tonight. And if you say something like Hinckley or Oadby, I will be so disappointed. But how? I mean, apart from obviously, I know you've been really, really busy setting up the Wes Morgan fan club, like I say, Leicester branch. But how are you feeling about this weekend, Craig?
Yeah, a little bit trepidatious, shall we say? I think we've got a lot of games coming up over the Christmas period, and I think if we have any more performances like we had the other night, then I shall definitely be turning to drink, and I'll end up with a nose like Rudolph or Alex Ferguson. Pretty much the same. But yeah,
Brian, those of us that are old enough to remember.
Brian, dear Brian. Yeah, it's an interesting one because you've got two teams who like to sit back, and it could be that we just stay in our own halves and just pass the ball between us, and neither of us tried to venture over the halfway line. So it could be like a volleyball game. Someone's got to come out. The onus is on them at home. Obviously, there's no fans there now. Now they've gone back into tier 2 like the rest of us have. Chris, I assume you're still loving life in tier 2.
We're
now
London's tier 2 down there.
Yeah. So now London are in tier 3. Sorry, they are no fans there, but the onus is still got to be on them to come out and play. It could play into our hands a little bit more, but we've definitely got to pick ourselves up from that performance.
I've got to be honest with you, and I very, very, very much agree with you there. But Andy, that is, I've lost it now. Where was it? I mean, Swindon. That's actually more disappointing than Hinckley or Oadby or Great Glen. Wasn't Swindon where they filmed The Office? I think that might have been Swindon.
That was Slough.
That was Slough.
I think it was twinned with Swindon.
Only because nobody else would probably.
No.
Sorry, Andy. We're going to lose Andy in a minute. We're back on. Unfortunately, we're back on the We Hate Leicester channel at the weekend, and we have got a. It's all going. We have got a Sunday. It's this Sunday, and it is at. If I can get rid of that, we can see what time, 2:15, and it's live on Sky We Hate Leicester Sports. But at least you're not going to pay extra for BT or Amazon if you haven't got that. Can you, Craig, explain to me? I mean, I kind of called us the hokey cokey team the other night because we win one. We win one game, we lose one game, we seem to shake it all about. What's happening? We're getting there's no consistency there, is there?
There's not, but I think this season above all, we have to try really hard to see the bigger picture, and that's not always easy for any of us as a Leicester fan. If it was just us, I think you could understand it, but I don't think anybody can string 3 good performances together at the minute. Even teams that you would think don't always win but are always consistent, like Wolves, have had 2 or 3 bad results. They got a tonking by Liverpool 4-0. So we had 2 good games. We had probably the 2 most comfortable games we've had, I think, against Athens and then followed up against Brighton. And they were the games that you can actually sit back and watch and enjoy because you knew you weren't really in any danger. We had those games, we controlled those games, and then we turn up at this one, and I don't know whether they were just tired. You don't want to make excuses, but a lot of games in a short period of time. I don't know. They're professional footballers; they should be able to deal with it. But I've said a few times, and I'll probably keep saying it, is that for me, this team lacks a little bit of bottle, a little bit of a backbone. Some players who just want to get around the pitch, get busy. Not the most skillful of players. And forgive me for saying this, but the old Danny Drinkwater type. Who was not the most skillful of players, but he would put 100% in every time, and he would clatter people. He would. But that type of player,
days, wouldn't he?
He would indeed. But we don't have that type of player who is busy and will get on top of people and be a nuisance. The old Robbie Savage, Neil Lennon, that kind of thing. For me, that's what we're lacking a little bit of at the minute. We're a bit too nice. We're a nice team. We don't. We don't get about people. We don't, when we're not playing well, you can still get about people and make it difficult for other teams to play well. And we didn't seem to do that.
I think you make a very valid point. And sometimes I sort of sit here and I talk to yourself, I talk to Brad, Mark, and obviously Josh, who's joining us, and it's good to see the other point of view, because I sit there and think, like, yeah, I just said to them, why just aren't we consistent? Why are we winning one and losing one? Why is player A playing brilliantly, and let's name him Madders, against right, he was brilliant, and then was non-existent last night. And you point it's not just us, and we concentrate on our team. Nobody's running away with that league. Tottenham lost it. Liverpool have only just started, coming a few runs together. It is every team, isn't it?
It is. I mean, Everton started like a house on fire, and then they had a patch of about 4 games with no wins. Now they've put 2 back-to-back wins together, and they're right back up there. I think they've gone to 5th. It's going to happen a lot. What we've got to ensure is that we get draws instead of losing games. We've got to find a way of taking little points here and there when we're not playing well. And at the minute, if we're not playing well, we lose. We've got to find a way of staying in games, and just being hard to beat, being resilient when we're not at our best. Because otherwise, the way the games are coming up, you could lose 3-4 on the bounce and you're mid-table, and then all the doom mongers would be out in force then. So we just need to find a little bit of backbone and work through games that we don't play particularly well in.
Another, as always, good point there. Up until the other night, we had actually won more games than any other team in this division, or in the Premier League. Liverpool have just come level with us with 8. We've both got 8 wins. Like you say, we're not drawing games, and the other teams. The teams are drawing them, but I'm looking at the table now, and Liverpool are 28, we're 24 points.
Yeah.
We've won 8. Yes, we've lost 5. Liverpool have drawn 4, and that's obviously the four different points, the 4 extra points that they've got. But it's anybody. I mean, Southampton are up there, West Ham are 7th, and then you got Man City are down in 8th, and Sheffield United. Look at where they are this season. But hey, some good news. I've got some good news, Craig. We managed to get through the last couple of days without Brendan Rodgers being linked with West Bromwich Albion.
Indeed. I mean, I'd love to know what the average West Brom fan is thinking now that they've got rid of Bilic and replaced him with the amazingly wonderful, talented, they're his words, Sam Allardyce.
And he read those from a bit of paper he found in a brown envelope next to him on the sofa. Yeah. I mean, I remember talking. Our first game of the season was against West Bromwich Albion, and it was the first opposition view show that I did. And I'd had it in my mind that West Brom were a bit like a Leicester. There were years ago. They were up and down, but they hadn't. They had been 8 years, I think it was, consistently in the Premier League. And to me, I mean, the West Brom fan, he absolutely adored Bilic. I think he was to them in a way almost what O'Neill was to us. And it just seems, and I know we've hit the panic button when we've been down there. We got rid of Ranieri, we got rid of Shakespeare because of where we were in the league. But I just it baffles me. Those sort of decisions just baffle me.
I think it's interesting because you got the same thing with Chris Wilder at the minute, and I wonder if these teams, Sheffield United. I don't think they'll sack Chris Wilder, and I think it's because they know that he's probably the best guy to bring them back if they go down. Sometimes teams need 2 or 3 visits to the Premier League to try and establish themselves. I think Burnley did it. They were up and down a couple of times. We've done it. Norwich, another one. You come up and down, you learn, you get experience, you bank a few quid along the way, and you come back stronger each time. That gives you a better chance. The thing with West Brom is, I wonder at what point are they going to move away from Allardyce, because Allardyce is clearly there as a we don't want to get relegated manager. So, okay, so he keeps you up this year. Do you then keep him for the next year so you don't get relegated? At what point do you make that transition to say, we're going to go with a manager who we think can take us forward in the longer term? And I think by bringing in Allardyce, it's a very short-term decision, and I wonder where they go from there.
I mean, if you look at Everton, when they took on Allardyce, it was because they were in a very, very, very precarious situation. Yep. And as soon as he got them safe, they got rid of him. And unfortunately, he has got that sort of... And let's face it, when he got that England manager's job, that was purely by default, you know. But and I look at what you said then again about Burnley. I mean, I lived in Burnley for sort of over 20 years. You know, our kids grew up watching Burnley. Thankfully, they grew up supporting Leicester, so I got something right with them. But you know, they went down. They stuck with Burnley manager. What's he called?
Sean Dyche.
Sean Dyche, yeah, that's it. I could not think then. They stuck with Sean Dyche, and he brought them straight back up again. And that's
it, because you build a team. It doesn't mean, because the process of building a team these days doesn't mean that you're always going to be in the Premier League. You know, as I say, you build a team. You know, a lot of these teams, you know, as I say, we were one of those. You build a team in the Championship. Leeds are doing it now. You build a team in the Championship. You bring it up. You see who can make the step up, who can't. Fulham have done the same. That team came up, and he gave them every chance to start the season. And now he's ditched half of them. I think he's totally taken the defence apart because he knew it wasn't up to scratch. So fair play to Parker for what he's done there. But it's a building process, and you need a chairman, you know, or owners of the club who understand that building process, who are prepared to go on that journey with the manager.
And I think as well, you know, and I know I don't want to say the non-sensible Leicester fans, because that would be unfair, because everybody's got an opinion and everybody's entitled to that opinion. But, you know, those that are sort of shouting for Rodgers to go, are just like, really, what planet are you on? Look at what he's had to work with, and look at where we are. Half the team out, and you know, we didn't have that first. When was it? You know, all season I don't think we've had our first choice back three, back four, and yet we're fourth. We were top of the Europa League group, and we got through. So, you know, it's not all doom and gloom, but we are, of course, now let's get back to Spurs, because they're the game coming up. Just going to bring in a lovely little message here from Stephen Collins. Keep the content coming, lads, as it's really enjoyable, and tells me back from the abyss of Leicester City performances. Regards from Dublin. Raise a glass.
You're very welcome.
Raise a glass of the old black stuff there, Stephen, to us, and have a Guinness on us. And thanks for joining us, and keep watching and spread the word. Of course, you know, Craig, you know, we do sort of also help out at the Samaritans at the weekends, don't we?
We do, indeed. You know, we're fans at the end of the day, again, and, you know, your immediate reaction after a game, not necessarily just after a game, but after a disappointing performance, is that you start looking at all the negatives, and you do have to, you know, pull yourself back round and look at the table and look where we are in Europe, and think at the end of it, you know, it's not that bad, is it? We've had a bad performance, and that comes with raised expectations. We've said this before, you know, you know, and the younger, more recent fans have not had that journey that we've all had on, and it'll be interesting, because I'll when we look back at an old Spurs game, I'll take you back not that long ago, and I'll read the team that played that day, and if you look at the journey we've been on since then, it shows you what being a Leicester fan is all about. You just have to ride the roller coaster, and we know it's not easy, and sometimes we'll throw up over the side. But at the end of it, you know, there will be another high coming after the low.
Oh, I mean, that is Leicester for you, isn't it? It's that's what it's like. Right, let's move on. Let's have a quick 10-second break, and then we'll bring it back round in a little way to our London club. So let's just
Hi,
say
this is Chris from Leicester Till I Die. Thank you for watching and listening. Have a very Merry Christmas and Happy New Year. Don't do anything I wouldn't enjoy.
Don't know whether that worked or not, but it is a week today. I don't know. We're very close to Christmas. I think we should all wear our blue Christmas Santa hats if we've got them next week. We are in London. Talking of London clubs and talking of disappointment that we as Leicester fans, and like you said, we're fans just as much as everybody else. And it's quite good that when we do the post-match show, it's like 30, 40 minutes after the final whistle before we go live. Gives us a chance to just sort of have a stiff drink and calm down. But I don't think I've ever felt quite like this guy does. Let's just see what he's got to say.
Enough! Burnley losing 1-0 at home! I'm sick of it! Arteta, I've defended you, but you've got to go! There's the door! Tala! Honestly, Xhaka, go! Leave! Look what you're doing to me! I'm sick of it! We're losing 1-0, we're passing it round the back! Aubameyang, we sacked 50 staff to pay for your new contract, and what do? Nothing! But the blame just ain't on you. Arteta, you have got to go. I'll back you till the cows come home, but now is enough. 5 points off the relegation zone. Losing to Burnley. Take it in. I'm sick of it. I've had enough. I have had enough. I've had it up to here. He's got to go. Xhaka, you've got to go. I'm absolutely sick of this club. I'm done. Finished.
I feel the guy's pain, but I don't think I could ever go on camera. I would have counted to 10 before I went on camera and did that, I think.
Yeah, I think it's nice to know who really was inside Gunnosaurus, though, because I think there's a lot of bitterness in there.
It makes you wonder, doesn't it? It does make you wonder. But look, hey, it's Spurs, not Arsenal. And as always, I bring these facts and figures up. We've played each other 113 times since we were both formed. We managed 36 wins, but unfortunately, they've lost 50. Sorry, we've lost 57. They've won 57. It's always been difficult against Spurs, hasn't it?
It has. They've always been that kind of team. Not necessarily a bogey team, but we have struggled consistently against them. I don't know what it is about Spurs, because even they've had some not great teams, and they've still managed to put one over on us. I'm not choosing it as my memorable game, but I do remember the FA Cup semi-final in the early 80s when they did have a great team, and that just one of those days that sticks in the mind for all the wrong reasons. But they've always been there and thereabout, or we always get them in the cups or whatever. It's just a team that seems to have got something on us, and I've seen us beat them, and I've seen us win at White Hart Lane, as was. But you just look at that record, and it's so lopsided in their favour that it's untrue.
The only thing that keeps me going every time we play Spurs is the fact that I actually saw De Vries score a goal for Leicester City against Tottenham Hotspur. And I think if you manage to see a De Vries goal against anybody for Leicester City, they were like golden geese eggs, weren't they?
It's almost like you've been looking at my little script that I've got ready to bring in. What a wonderfully bad time link that was, Chris.
It was. Well, let's quickly move on then. That's our head-to-head in the Premier League. Played 28. Now, that's a bit more even,
right? It is
recent.
Isn't it? Yeah.
12 wins to them, 11 to us. And when you look at it like that, that actually looks a little bit better.
Yeah. It is. I mean, we had some great wins, didn't we, in the title-winning season when Huth popped up with a fantastic headed winner. So, I mean, that's encouraging. I say it's going to be a very different Tottenham, I think, that we're going to play this time, because Jose is almost taking a leaf out of the Leicester City title-winning book by just sitting back and playing with some dangerous players on the break. So, as I say, how he approaches this one is going to be really interesting. Now, obviously, last night's game against Liverpool, where he very interestingly said that the better team lost. I'm not sure which game he was actually watching there, but I wonder if he'll set up in his normal way and try and hit us on the break. I don't think he will. I think he's going to come out and try and take the game from us very early on, because his ideal thing is get 1 or 2 goals up and then sit back. And they learned that lesson against West Ham earlier in the season when they were 3-0 down and let it go for a 3-3 draw. I don't think they have given away many leads since then. They know what they're doing now, and if they get a goal up, but definitely if they got 2 goals up, I don't think we'd be coming back from that.
No, not well. It depends which Leicester turn up. Talking of links, as we were doing, this links me into my next question to you. Castagna could be back. Well,
I hope so, because he's in the team that I've picked. I think the same, Andy. That's what you sort of read.
I'm not the only one that goes your links. You see, Andy does as well.
I mean, you read between the lines of what Brendan said over his last couple of press conferences, and it sounded like he could have been back for the Everton game, but maybe he was thinking that Fuchs was the better option there. But I would hope to see Castagna back for this one, and I think we need him.
Would you move Justin over? Well, we'll come on. I tell you what, we'll come on to that when you pick your team later, and let's not jump the gun too much. Last season, we beat them on the start of the season when, in fairness, we were beating everybody, I think, at that point, and they really sort of gave us a little bit of a lesson back in July at the end of the season when everybody was giving us a lesson. I mean, as I look at those stats there, 1-1, lost 1 with the green and the red, that pretty much sums up our pre and post lockdown season last season.
It does. I mean, that particular that 3-0 reverse, I've managed to block his name out of my memory. The guy from Wolves, that was his finest hour, wasn't it? I think in that 3-0. We didn't turn up for that game at all, and they're the disappointing games, aren't they? When you know how well Leicester can play, on those games where we just don't turn up, it's really disappointing. And that was definitely one of those. And we couldn't live with Kane. Kane's playing a slightly different role at the minute, so that's going to be difficult for us to deal with him, I think, because he's playing a bit more of a withdrawn role, whereas he was sort of right up front. But I think we've learned a little bit more.
So I think following what you were saying there, another good point is that Kane is up there with some of the highest assists in the Premier League.
Yeah. I think over the last couple of seasons, all fair play to Kane. I think his all-round game has improved dramatically. He had a few injuries down the years, and I think that's probably, changed the way that he plays. He drops down, he gets into midfield almost a lot, and because he knows that he's got Son as a runner. So how we deal with that, whether one of our defenders comes out or whether somebody's given the job to pick him up when he drops into midfield, I'm not sure, but I'm sure Brendan will have a plan for that. But he's dangerous when he's away from the box, as he is in the box at the minute.
Yeah. And I mean, if I was to say to you, sort of, who are their dangerous players? I mean, we know who they are, don't we? We but it is that time when you have to take your carpet slippers off there, Craig. Fraudulent slip there, and then he called you Brendan. I told you, I'm having a bad day, but you need to put Brendan's shoes on, pick up his little notebook, and let's have a look at your formation and lineup that you would go for, and let's see if the guys that are watching agree or not, and see if And Andy's just said there, yes, Son is now their danger man. Put Brendan's shoes on. Let's see what you go for. What's your formation, first of all?
It's a bit of it's adaptable, but let's say it's a 4-1-4-1.
Okay.
So I'm going to let Casper's little slip go, and I'll keep him in.
I think, to be honest with you, he did have that slip, and we brought this up in the post-match show. Was that any worse than Vardy missing a spot-on header that he put straight at the goalkeeper? But then,
No.
to my mind, they're both as bad as each other. And look at
exactly. I mean that's it. A goalkeeper makes a mistake, it usually ends up in the back of the net, and it's highlighted a lot more than any outfield player. Asides maybe missing a penalty. But yeah, Vardy, I was berating Man City's strikers the other night for missing 2 sitters right at the death, both headers, and now Vardy's doing the same again. The old classic, head it back the way it came, and and you score. I mean, Firmino's header was exactly that last night to get the win. Fantastic header.
But Casper did make a beautiful. I mean, he was unlucky with the third attempt because he'd made two amazing saves. I mean, that second save, my God! If that goal hadn't gone in, that just as a double save would have been on every pre-match reel from Sky for the rest of the season.
You do realise it's Leicester City, so it would have been mentioned and then forgotten about.
So I should have said Amazon, not Sky. Sorry.
Yeah, but no, you might as well have closed the book on save of the season if he did manage to keep that out. It was unbelievable, and he saved us more times than he's messed up. So anyway, so let's go with Casper, and then the back four: James Justin on the right. Okay. Fofana alongside Evans. No Morgan. I know you're probably shocked. And then
Evans was coming back actually.
Yeah. And then Castagna, who I think will be fit on the left. I mean, you could easily switch James Justin and Castagna fullbacks quite easily. They're both adaptable and interchangeable, but I think.
Are you up for that game? I mean, it worked against Brighton, but a lot of teams do that where they've got players they can swap. They do swap them and swap them back again during a game to confuse the opposition,
which is good. Keep them guessing. I think that was more of a going to a back four from a back five, but it's good to have adaptable players who can put in a shift wherever they're played. So Ndidi returns to his normal position.
No Mendy.
No, for me, I took on board what Brad was saying, but we would all, I think, put Ndidi ahead of Mendy. So therefore, you are weakening, that position. But for me, Mendy's looking tired. I think we've got players who are just starting to look tired. Fuchs is looking tired.
Got to be the first choice, Had he not been injured, Mendy wouldn't have got a look in as good. And I love Mendy, and I love the fact that he's actually shown us this season what he can do. But you are quite right. Yeah. Indeed, he is that notch up, isn't he? You would go for him every time. I agree. I agree.
So across the four. Across the middle, I would say the two wider players are a little bit more advanced, but in the middle, and I did change my mind here, so I'm going to go with Maddison and Pratt, and I'm going to give Tielemans a rest. He's looked a little bit off the pace a little bit the last couple of games, but also I think you've got to look at who Spurs have in there. That's a very, very physical middle of the midfield to me. Højbjerg and Ndombele or Sissoko, they go physical in that position there. and I don't think you can afford to have Tielemans and Maddison in that space. So that's why I've brought Pratt in. And for me, Maddison can get on the ball, maybe win free kicks or whatever. He's a little bit more mobile on the ball than Tielemans. And I think if it's a heavy game, I think Tielemans could get run out of the game, to be honest. So I think he deserves a bit of a break as well. He's played a lot of football. He's played international football as well. So I think maybe give him that rest and bring him back for the Man United game. But I don't think this is necessarily a game for Tielemans with the physicality of the Spurs midfield.
Quite right. And again, as always, good point. He has looked. He's not looked himself. He's not looked his usual £40 million player of the last few games. So yeah, you're doing well. I'm agreeing with you so far.
Yeah. So the two wide people in this, I think Under deserves another chance. I'm not sure that any Leicester fan watching that game the other night could understand why Under was taken off. I just really that's
what he did there.
Yeah, I just really hope it's not the start of Brendan showing that he's got favourites. And some people are untouchable, because he looked like the only player who was going to unlock something in that game. And I think everybody could see that it wasn't Barnes' night, but he took Under off. So that was really disappointing for me. And it's one of those, as soon as you get back on the, Brendan's great, he then goes and pulls something like that, and you do wonder what's going on in his head. But anyway, so I think Under deserves another go. And on the other side, I originally had Barnes to start again, but again, what I've thought of now is, because of that physicality and the fact that it's going to be a game of runners for me, I'm going to put Albrighton on that side, just because I think he's a workhorse. Again, not the most creative of players. Good on his day, but I think he's a workhorse, and I think this is a game for workhorses. So I'm going to bring Albrighton in there, and then Vardy up front to round it off.
I mean, I've got to say, and I just brought that up. Actually, Andy said this back about half an hour ago when we first started. Could not understand Under coming off and what Barnes' best position is. I left it to see what you were going to say when you did the team to bring it up. But yes, I think we all looked at that and couldn't understand Under coming off. I don't know whether Brendan in the past has been a manager that's had favourites. I think certainly at Liverpool, his team almost most times picked itself. You can't, he'd have been roasted if he hadn't picked Gerrard. He'd have been roasted if he hadn't picked Suarez when he had him. So, like you say, it's that same with us with Vardy, but I hope he doesn't. And I know, Mark's questioned Under's ability sometimes, but I think he's had a good couple of games. And I like you say, I would have taken Barnes off the other day.
Yeah, me too.
Well, I must admit, I like that. Albrighton, I like Albrighton in the midfield. I don't like Albrighton as a wing back because he can't defend.
Yeah.
And, he does have a habit of giving penalties away when he's playing at the back. And I don't like it. But I love him as a player. And, you've got, with that team, you've also got Barnes to come on later in the game with his pace is if they're tiring at all. So not a bad shout. Disappointed we haven't got a little place for Big Wes, but you can't have everything, can you?
Of course you can't. No.
You can have everything. But
I'm just showing that I'm not. I haven't got favourites. I just pick it as I see it against the opposition that we've got to play, and as I say, I think it's not going to be a pretty game.
No, I don't think they particularly ever are against Mourinho's teams, are they? But no, very. I like that team. I do like that, and we will see if Brendan's listening and if he picks that up on Sunday. Now, I wonder.
I think we all know the answer to that, Chris.
Sorry,
I think we all know the answer to that.
Hey, you don't know, me and Brendan, we're like that. Don't knock it. He sneaks on every now and again. He sends me a text. He goes like, can you not find out what Craig's team is in advance?
Just so I can pick the opposite. Yeah.
Yeah, I say I don't have favourites, Brendan. I'm not telling you. I'm not telling you. We have. Let's just see. Here's a good point. Who do you think should be the captain? I mean, I think if Casper. I mean, you know my feelings on this. My feelings are I hate goalkeepers as captain. Casper, for us, has got more passion in his little finger than a lot of the players have in their whole bodies. And if he was an outfield person, I would say, without doubt. I just don't like captains can't control. He can't give Vardy a bollocking if Vardy's having an off game or whatever when he's back in goal. That's why I don't like those. Midfield, I prefer midfield as a captain, but I don't think there's anybody in there at the moment that could step up. For me, personally, it would have to be Evans when he's fit. I mean, obviously, if Morgan comes on, it defaults to him. Understandable, Morgan. Yeah, captain, fantastic. Personally, for me, Evans, because I've seen him. When we were 8-0 up, he was the one that was going out against Southampton. He was the one that was going around G'ing people up to get the ninth and go for the record. I prefer here to say a midfielder, but for me, as much as I love Casper and he has got the passion and whatever, not a goalkeeper as a captain. What about yourself, Craig?
No, I'm with you on that. As I said before, and maybe this is something that will be touched on when you do your transfer shows. For me, there's no natural leader on that pitch, So we either have to find one or we have to create one. And as Andy said there, yeah, exactly the same. We don't have a leader. We don't have and again, I'll mention him again, a Danny Drinkwater who would get amongst people and drive people on. It'd be interesting. I'll throw something out there. Brendan should know his players more than anyone else. So for me, I would love Ndidi to be the guy who steps up and can do that. And Ndidi's sort of under the radar. Everybody appreciates him as a player, appreciates what he brings to the game. But I wonder if there's more. I wonder if there's some more there that he needs that responsibility. And the other one I would say, it would be really interesting. Now, maybe it's one for a cup game, let's say, where you give someone the armband and see how they react. I wonder how Maddison would react if he was given the armband. And the reason I say that is last season, I think, Grealish was given the armband. Now, Grealish, boyhood Villa fan, but some people crumble when they were given the armband. His performances went up when he was given the responsibility of leading that team, of being the focal point of that team. I wonder if someone like Maddison, who's got that cockiness about him, it would almost take him to the next level in terms of okay, I can't afford to drift in and out of games here. I've got to be the guy who takes the game by the scruff of the neck. Maybe for a Stoke Cup game or something, to just throw the armband at someone and see how they react. Because for me, there's no natural leaders there.
And Andy, again, earlier said, and this was going back to when we were talking about players with bottle and what have you, we need a Roy Keane or Vieira in the centre of the park. And I understand where he's coming from with that. But I'm going to merge that particular point that Andy made there, which was a good point. I think you were talking about, say, Drinkwater, Savage, Leonard at the time. But let's merge that in with the captain. Because I'm going to say to you, what sort of captain do you prefer? We both kind of said we prefer outfield players, as captains. Would you have a Roy Keane, or would you prefer, a Roy Keane sort of vocal, in your face, grab you by the balls, as somebody said earlier, and squeeze them if you're not playing well? Or, and you just made the point there with Maddison, a David Beckham type captain, who doesn't take the players by the scruff of the neck, a bit like Grealish you just mentioned there. He takes the game by the scruff of the neck and actually leads by example. Because Roy Keane, even if he was having a bad game, it wouldn't bother him. He'd still tell other players off. David Beckham wouldn't tell any players off you know, in the same way, he'd go out and say, "Look, this is what you should be doing." And if I'm doing it, do you remember that famous game when he scored when we played? I think it was Greece, was it? And we qualified and knocked the Germans back into the play.
Yeah, the free kick right at the end. Yeah,
and he scored that goal exactly. In that game, I think you could have actually forgotten the other 10 players and just had Beckham, because my memory in that game, apart from that goal, was that Beckham was everywhere. He was almost tackling his own players to get the ball. What sort of captain do you prefer?
I remember that game really, really well. You're right. He ran that game by example. For me, I would go for more of a Roy Keane. I think you've got to have winners in your team. If you're going to be successful, you've got to have winners. Our team that won the league was never going to be the most skillful team, but it was full of winners, people who hadn't had the greatest careers, but saw this as their opportunity to stamp themselves, to make a mark on history. It was their one and only chance. And they would give everything, even when they weren't playing well. You know, we ground out so many results. The Norwich 1-0. You know, we had 4 1-0s in a row. So even going back to players like Brian Robson before that, you know, again, these are not the most skillful players, but they're winners, they're leaders, you know, and leaders are sort of born. Henderson now at Liverpool, he's not a bad footballer. I think that gets overlooked a lot, but the guy's a leader, you know, and for me, if we want to take that next step, we need a leader, and a leader would have been the perfect person in that Everton game to say, right, we're 1 down, we go and get the next goal, we go and take this game back, you know, we're at home. We haven't got that at the minute, and that's where, you know, those kind of games get away from us. So for me, winner.
Yeah. If Roy Keane said to you as a player, sort of, right, you know, you're going to go over to that side for the next 10 minutes, you go, yeah, do you want me there for longer? You just wouldn't argue with him, would you? But no, that's.
I mean, you look back at just a quick one. You look at. Thanks, Stephen. You look at the. You look at our successful teams in the past. You know, I'll go back: Lennon, Walsh, Taggart, Matt Elliott, winners. People who wouldn't let another. Their first thought was to win their individual battle. You know, they wouldn't want to go off the pitch being second best to whoever they were up against, and then they dragged the rest of the team behind them. That's definitely what we need. We've got to find people. That's what's going to keep Harvey Barnes back. You know, he's got all the talent in the world, but unless he can find something within him, the same as Damari Gray, if they can't find that will to win within them, they're not going to make it to the very top level.
Great as always. Let's move on, and I wonder, as we look forward to Craig's classic match, I just wonder if I can think what game this might be. I publicly apologise for treading on your toes with this one. We should maybe have a quick chat before. Well, we do have a chat before we come live. Maybe you should just fill me in on what I don't do it.
Don't mention it. Yeah.
Yeah. So your classic match between Spurs and Leicester.
My classic match is a memorable one, and I think it lived with me, not just because of my Lord, and it was a great goal, by the way, curled into the bottom corner if I remember it rightly, but because of the team we had at the time and what we were going through at the time. We were very, very average, an average championship team, not even in the Premier League. And
who was manager at that time? Was it Levine?
I think it was. Levine. I mean, for Leicester City fans who don't remember this game and not familiar with what we were at that time. Now, this is 8th of January, 2006. 10 years before we won the league. Only 10 years before we won the league. And the team that we have out during this game, this is against Spurs. It was a televised game. I think it was tea time. Televised game, FA Cup. Spurs went on in this season to finish 5th in the Premier League. We went on to finish 16th in the Championship. Let me read you this team and see how spine-tingling this team is. Rab Douglas was in goal. Niels Erik Johansson, Richard Stearman, Paddy McCarthy, Alan Maybury, Joey Good-Johnson, Joe Hamill, Stephen Hughes, Ryan Smith, Gareth Williams, and Mark De Vries. Now, come on. That is our team.
That takes me back.
I mean, playing against, Defoe was on their bench. They had Michael Carrick, Jermaine Jenas, Robbie Keane was up front for them. We were so far the underdogs in this team. And we were 2-0 down after 41 minutes. Game was over. We got a goal back on 44 minutes by a sub who came on for Joe Hamill, Elvis Hammond.
I was waiting for it. I love that guy. I love him and hate him in equal measures. I love him, hate him for his football, love him for him, if that makes sense.
You know what I've done? I've done our other sub who came on that day was Patrick Kisnorbo. Great player, Patrick Kisnorbo.
Yeah.
However, I've probably just named a team there, and I would imagine there's a lot of Leicester City fans who have probably heard of none of those players playing for us. Yet it was only 10 seasons before we won the Premier League. That's the transformation that this club has undertaken. That's the journey that this club has taken. That game, Stephen Hughes scored in the 57th. Mark De Vries scored in the 90th minute to come from 2 behind against a high-flying Spurs, middling Championship team Leicester City, win it in the last minute, 3-2. It was unbelievable.
What was more of a shock for you? The fact that we actually came back from 2-0 down and won, or the fact that Mark De Vries got a goal?
I think it's both. But what I would say to you, that team there, that team of nondescript nobodies, I bet that the current Leicester team would not come from 2 down against Spurs. But that team did. And that's the difference between having people who have a bit of pride in the shirt and have a bit of backbone and a little bit of bottle to go along with their skill. And that's what we need.
Rab Douglas, Craig Levine, again, for those that don't know, he'd come down from Scotland. I think he had been manager at Hearts. And he'd got them into was it the Champions League then, or whatever that it was at the time, for the first time in years, if not their history. And I think he was seen as the new Jock Wallace. And I think along with many managers at that time, I don't think they realised what a mess our club was in. Because I remember Ian Holloway, and I just had this one. Craig, you need to be in the dressing room. Doing what?
Thanks,
Andy. Ian Holloway will be remembered as the guy that took us down to the 3rd tier for the first time in our history. No getting away from that. He was not a bad manager. He got for a manager to take a team like Blackpool into the Premier League and for a week have them sat at the top of the Premier League. He was not a bad manager. We were going through a hell of a bad time at that. I think we weren't far off going bump for the first time, were we? And there was bad decisions on players we bought, but Craig Levine did buy some donkeys. Stephen Hughes, you'd fart next to him and he'd fall over. Let's be face it. Was it in? Just give me the defence again, because one of those players I just want to bring up. Just tell me the back two again, the 2 central defenders again.
Niels Erik Johansson, Richard Stearman, Paddy McCarthy, and Alan Maybury.
Paddy McCarthy, I think it was, up until recently, was still playing for Palace, wasn't he?
Was he? I don't know. Richard Stearman's still playing, I think.
It was, yeah. He was not bad. I mean, he was one of those players we had to sell to keep the club afloat, type of thing. But I have to mention, of all the players, there were some individuals there, and you know, Elvis and Mark De Vries were not two of them, but there was a guy in the middle of defence that I absolutely loved, and I was heartbroken. And like I say, it was only 10 years ago, so I was like very late 40s, and I was close to tears when we sold him. Joey Goodjohnson. I loved that guy, and every team has a David Beckham in them, in as much as they can score from sort of way out. Do you remember that goal?
I do. I was just going to say, you know, one of the few fans, I guess, of any club who's actually seen one of their players score from their own half. Fantastic goal from Joey Goodjohnson. It's you know, he's in the memory. That's it. He'll always be a Leicester legend just because of that moment.
And he went on to Burnley, I believe it was, of all places.
Yeah.
But yes, they weren't. Right. They weren't the best of times, were they, as a Leicester fan? But
I was going to say, there's a couple of players that even I can't remember. Joe Hamilton, Ryan Smith.
Ryan Smith, he was, as far as I remember, he was an Arsenal player, and he came to us on loan, and he was a winger. I think he was a left winger, and if he was in the mood and he could turn it on, he was going to be the next. Well, he was going to be the first David Beckham, if you like. He'd got that sort of reputation, but his career. Well, you know, what happened to him, who knows? But he was when we got him on loan, it was like, my God, we've got this guy, Ryan Smith. And he started off really well and went down. Joe Hamill, I remember the name. I don't remember him as a player. The guy that you just said in defence, the first guy, the Niels, whatever it was.
Eric Johansson.
Yeah, I can't remember anything about him at all. But yeah, there's, like you say, when you look back at the players that have come and gone through our doors, it's amazing. Talking and you'd almost think this was scripted, wouldn't you? You'd almost think we'd actually like rehearse this, because talking of players that have come and gone through our doors, and it isn't a video this time, because to be quite honest with you, I hadn't got the time to do it. But let's have a look at 5 feet in both camps. Some players that have had played for both or managed both teams, and we'll go through them. I'll talk them through first of all. You've got, of course, David Pleat. You've got Celez in there. A couple of goalkeepers. I knew Ian Walker. I was surprised that Casey Keller had, and of course our very own Gary Lineker. But we've got to talk quickly. David Pleat.
David Pleat. What can I mean?
Wait a minute. The whole show for me has just been building up to this moment.
Yeah. I mean, the thing is with David, people come and go, don't they? And it coincides with it. Not everything's a manager's fault, as you just touched on there with Ian Holloway. You know, when you come to a club and at the time that you come to a club, whether the club's going through a great time, whether he's got money to spend. I mean, David Pleat had a fantastic reputation. I think we managed to end that for him, but. Wasn't the greatest time, was it? I mean, we had a few managers around then, and who just never worked for whatever reason, you know, who came and went very, very quickly. And you go through that. You go through that, particularly as a team like Leicester, we were at the time. Sometimes, you know, the stars align almost. That there's a well-known name who's out of work, and he's looking to get back in. The club are looking for an established name, and so you go with it. And sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. But it didn't. But he wasn't the last manager, and he wasn't the first. He wasn't the last.
No, he obviously had come from, as obviously with the clue there in the fat foot in both camps, he had come from Tottenham. He hadn't done too badly at Tottenham. And
No,
it was the 90s, wasn't it? When he was it the
yeah,
90s? Yeah.
I think so.
Yeah. As I have talking of which, another lead in. I'm reading this. You mentioned it the other day, minding my own football business. I've yet to find David Pleat in here, but I do believe if he's in the 90s, he will get a mention in there. He had a bit of a he had a bit of a reputation for non-football things when he came to us. Tottenham had sacked him because he liked to go and survey the sides of roads, didn't he? He was caught perusing the very slowly up and down certain parts of Tottenham.
He was very, very friendly with Roxanne, if I remember rightly, and liked the way that she put on her red light. I do remember.
Give us a tune. Give us a song.
Yeah, I remember because talking to Matthew, who's at Swindon, that I think he was manager when we went to Swindon, and I went to the away game in Swindon, and I was sitting in the stands, and we were getting a hell of a lot of stick about David Pleat being our manager. I can assure you at that time from the locals. But then there was also something in the paper at the same time about Swindon being the hotbed for that type of activity. So I'm not sure if the rumours were true that David Pleat said he'd make his own way back home and not go on the coach. But I couldn't possibly comment.
Is it true, Matthew? Is it true about Swindon? Tell us. It certainly is true about Blackburn, where I actually lived and worked for about 5 years, and but that's another story for a different channel that I can tell you about. Remind me, I might tell you off air, Craig. But yeah, because the crowd didn't like him. He tried. He was, to my mind, there's a bit of, as far as I understand it, again, and you never know whether the memories you've got of a particular person, being manager, player, is correct, or whether you're actually mixing it up with another one. But he came. It's like, to be honest with you, it's like Jose Mourinho going to Charlton Athletic now. He couldn't do that job because he's going to go in and say, right, I want money for this player, money for that player, and Charlton's going to go, we haven't got the money. It was a bit like that, I felt, with David Pleat, and he always bemoaned the fact that he didn't know. I mean, he says he wasn't told the full story when he joined. You believe it or whatever, but like you say, you think you got a coup by getting them Sven-Goran Eriksson. He's another one, and I love that guy to bits. And I met him once outside the stadium, as you do, for the old selfie and what have you. And I think it was 11 o'clock at night, and it was a night game, and he must have been ready to go home, and he'd done all his interviews, but he had time for everybody that was waiting outside. Lovely, lovely guy. Totally the wrong manager, like you say, for Leicester. But yes, those.
There was a couple of interesting loan signings that we've had as well, and obviously Harry Kane was here for a short period of time as well. But before that, going back a little bit, do you remember we had two players on loan? I think it was at the same time. We had Kevin Campbell from Arsenal, but we also had Paul Moran from Spurs, who both played up front for us for a period of time, and they were a really, really good spearhead for us. But Paul Moran never really made the heights, but he was good for us on loan. And as we know, Harry Kane virtually did nothing for us on loan, and I'm not sure what happened to him.
No. There's a famous picture of him sat on the bench with Mr. Vardy, I do believe. And Nigel Pearson stood in front of them, and you're thinking, knowing what we know now, you've got them two on the bench, But
I think Jesse Lingard was on the bench as well. We had from Man U at the same time.
Oh, Jesse Lingard. He was probably best left on the bench. He was probably best left in the car park, wasn't he? Craig, as always, it's been a pleasure, sir.
It's an absolute pleasure, and sorry that you've got a double dose of me today. this week. It's almost like I'm a vaccine.
I was about to say we've got to have 2 vaccines. We've got to have 2 Craigs, haven't we? But I'm being the Des Lynam of Leicester Till I Die TV. You do bring a certain audience with you along. Dare I say the Blue Ridge Brigade? But no.
You say the nicest things, Chris.
I do. Hey, it has been great, Craig, and thank you so much. And the game after this is Man United, which is Is that Boxing Day? It is Boxing Day, isn't it?
Yeah.
Man United on Boxing Day. So we'll have a chat after and find out sort of when you are free, if you are free, obviously, because coming up, and I should point this out to everybody that's watching, of course, we are coming up to Christmas, and apart from me, all the other guys actually do have lives outside of this, and Christmas is a family time, so they might not be here. So some of the shows might not appear when you think they are going to appear, or indeed at all. But bear with us because it is Christmas, and these guys do a lot in supporting me with this show, and we have to let them sort of have their family time as well. So we'll have a chat about that after, Craig. But thanks very much for tonight. As always, knowledgeable and good looking with it.
Thanks, Chris. Thanks, everyone.
Take care, bud. Well, yes, that is it. We got through it. The studio didn't collapse. Nothing has happened too badly that I didn't do. I never got a score. In fact, let's just see. Is he still there? Craig, are you still there?
I am still here.
Never got a score prediction off you.
1-1. Let's go with that.
I can't say what the ex-players have gone because I haven't asked them yet. We only played Everton. Last night, Everton, honestly, it's just so, confusing at the moment. Everything's coming on wrong days and everything. I've got to be honest with you. Guess what score I've gone for?
You're going 1-1 as well.
I'm going 1-1 as well. So we've agreed a lot tonight. What's going on?
I know. Yeah. The stars have aligned. It won't happen again.
No, it's the Christmas spirit, And I'm not going to say I saw this and thought of you, but
happy holidays, I guess.
Didn't think of you at all with that.
No, of course not.
I'll let you go again properly this time. Thanks very much, bud. Take care. Thanks.
Cheers, Chris.
Right, guys, thanks very much for joining us. Like I say, it's all over the place at the moment with games and everything going on everywhere. Thank you so much for joining us. Thanks for joining in. Thanks to Andy for his comments. We never did find out if Swindon was a hotbed for the loose women, as they say. I'm sure he'll let us know at some point. We can all get down there. Thanks so much for Craig as well. Double dose this week. Thanks very much for giving your time up for doing that, Craig. I will be back tomorrow night. We will be back with Ryan, who is a Spurs fan. That's 7:30 on Friday. Tomorrow night, we'll be doing the opposition view. So thanks a lot in advance to Ryan for joining us. If you enjoyed the show, follow us on YouTube. Give that little subscribe button a click, please. We want to get those subscriptions up. It makes us feel good and shows that you like what we're doing for you. And it's, of course, Leicester Till I Die TV if it's on YouTube. We're also, of course, available across the social media networks: Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, Pinterest, and our website, leicestertillidie.com, which isn't just a news website. It's everything you want on Leicester. We've got probably the biggest base on the web for all the Foot in Both Camps players. So leicestertillidie.com is the website /Foot in Both Camps. And you'll see there's more than just the 5 that I bring up. And give us half an hour and you'll find us on a podcast if you want to listen to us while you're driving. Apple, iTunes, like I said, Spotify and Google and Anchor, to name it but a few. And again, it's Leicester Till I Die on there. Guys, thanks very much. Hope you're all staying safe. I'll see you tomorrow night, 7:30 for the Opposition View show. Don't do anything I wouldn't enjoy. Good night.
Thanks for watching Leicester Till I Die. This is Chris saying goodbye and see you next time.
Shut up and sit down.
Thanks for watching. These videos are tremendous. You better like them too, or I'll be back.